Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's dive into a story about a couple who had to deal with a former homeowner's persistent and intrusive attempts to buy back their old house, turning what should have been a simple transaction into a frustrating ordeal. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Nosy neighbor pestering us about selling our house she used to own. This is a weird situation. Technically, the person involved isn't a neighbor per se, but she's pretty close and is definitely making me feel like she's from hell. A couple years ago, my wife and I bought a house from Pearl. Pearl and her husband moved across the country for her husband's job. It's a beautiful house, and they put a lot of work into fixing it up. Everything was going okay for a while. Pearl would message us now and then. My wife grew up in a house next to Pearl's family. She would ask about how things are going, if we enjoyed the house, etc. At one point, she asked if she could see the house the next time she was in our part of the country visiting family or something and show some friends what it looked like with their renovations. We thought it was odd, but we would have allowed it. She never did end up visiting, so nothing came of it. This was just the beginning of some weird crap. Almost a year ago, someone accidentally used our address to list their home on Zillow. It was a simple error of using north instead of south on the same road. Anyways, I guess Pearl's husband saw the listing and got excited that we were selling the house. We know this because Pearl messaged us asking about the house and if we were selling. We told her no, we weren't the ones who listed it. Pearl continues to send us messages such as, "Oh, that's too bad. My husband got really excited about maybe moving back to that house because we love it so much and life on this side of the country isn't as good as we thought it would be." Stuff like that. Eventually, she stops messaging us. Next thing we know, a couple months later, we find out that Pearl and her family has moved back into town but are staying at a rental. She starts messaging us asking what the price would be like to sell them the house. We give them an amount that's a fair price according to the housing market. Pearl says that it's out of their budget and can't justify paying that, mixed with a few comments about how they cut us a deal when they sold us the house and whatnot. I want to mention that she lied to our faces twice during the sale, claiming that the house had an AC when it didn't, and how they didn't have dogs, even though we could smell dog pee in the carpets that we had to replace, found dog toys in the air vents and dog hair in the wall paint. So her deal wasn't as good as she likes to make it sound. She goes radio silent for a while. Cut to 2 weeks ago. Due to some financial hardships, my wife and I are forced to put our house up for sale. We list the house, and of course, Pearl sees the legitimate listing. She makes a few comments about wanting to move into the house again and how the price is higher than what we paid her. We kindly let her know that this is our asking price, and if she's interested, she can make an offer through a realtor. Silence for a while, other than passive-aggressive comments on the community Facebook page about how she misses her old house. Now we have someone interested in buying the house and is out forward an offer. We're waiting for funding and inspections to come through. Who messages us last night? Pearl. She comments on how we got to enjoy the renovations longer than she did and other stuff to make us feel sorry for her. She asks if we're under contract. We tell her we are. She asks with who. We say that it's not anyone we know personally, and we don't feel like disclosing that. She asks how much did they offer. We tell her we got a fair offer. She keeps pushing. We let her know we aren't comfortable letting her know. She's gone silent for now, but I'm sure we'll hear something from her again real soon. Maybe once the house is sold. She's just so annoying. I get being attached to a house, but this is becoming borderline harassment. She wants to buy back the house from you for what you paid years ago? What kind of world does she live in? Probably just one that only exists inside her head. And our second story. Do you want to put me on watch? I'll request you to watch me then. My story begins working for a financial institution, heaps of overworking and abuse, and we were contractors from a company in Brazil. We worked 12-plus hour daily easily as we had to deploy stuff at midnight as it was a critical app. I was online all the time. I took all the heavy fire from the clients who dealt directly with me. I had a manager who did nothing and despised me because the team loved me. She didn't know the teammates' names and things like this. We were the only team to have a planned on-duty schedule set up the month before, and everyone relied on us. client side and contractor company side. I was the only one the client had the cell phone, and they never complained. This mangle woman loved to give everyone's phones to the client so he could call devs nonstop, Saturdays, Sundays, moon or sun on the sky. I put my foot down for the first time with this. The second time, she tried to send a 2-month girl intern to work with all males from another contractor company. You can imagine how workplace abuse would be dealt with, alone. Now, I know there's a lot of amazing people in the world, but I wouldn't put my hand in the fire for the tech community. Sorry. This was the second time I've put my foot down. We had an altercation in a call with the client because I directly said the intern productivity would plummet having to work with a strange team and under rules that are not our company's, and this could even lead to a lawsuit. She was pissed. We hung up. She calls me alone 0.2 seconds later and scolds me, asking, how do I think questioning her would be perceived? Now I'm a scrum master. The only thing I do is conduct meetings and defuse bombs, so I thought she could use the neuron I freely gave her with my explanation. And I answered hushing these serious decisions in front of the client said more about her incompetence than to discuss with me in front of him. I think I heard a vein pop on her head. She hung up. Now it gets good. Thanks for reading my introduction. 30 minutes pass and I receive an email stating I was on HR watch for misconduct and insubordination. I was required to take one mentoring session weekly during 1 month, filling up an Excel through the week with everything I did and recounting on this sessions to see where I could improve. The thing is, she saw the dumpster fire the project was and just got accepted to switch project/client, so she was going away next week or so, and my new manager would be a flower of a person who had nothing to do with this crap. I called HR and told them I would like to request her as my personal mentor, as she was the one who pointed so many improvement feedbacks to better my performance and was an example for me of what not to do, but I left this part out. They thought this was an amazing idea. The sessions had her and the HR worker responsible for the case, so she had to put a mentoring face, and lo and behold, I turned into Casper Hauser during those sessions. I asked everything. I would fill the Excel to the brim with everything I did, including emails, chat convos, and even screen grabs from my personal phone the client used to message and requested to go through them so she could approve my company speech. I would link Excel files inside this Excel file so she had absolutely everything I did, one per row. Those sessions took 2 to 3 hours every Friday, scheduled at 8 a.m. by me, as she would be sure to complain when the team worked until 2 a.m., and I would let them come in late. She would have to rate everything in a drop-down cell, write the week's outcome, and come up with action points for next week. I couldn't help her with this, as I was there to learn. In the last meeting, I requested her manager to be on the meeting, a woman who filled my manager gaps when I needed most, and we had an amazing relationship. She agreed, as in her view, this was a successful mentoring case from her employer. I finished the meeting, asking for 2 minutes at the end, and forwarded my 2 weeks. Here in Brazil, it's 4. Written by hand with all the points that made me quit and receipts, including a part of the fight in front of the client. I was able to record with the phone when I saw things going south. I still think about her, so this is the sad thing. But I now have an amazing job at a big tech and vowed to never be like her. It's impressive how the contractor managed to turn a bad situation into a chance to show just how incompetent the manager was, all while staying professional. And our next story. A pizza invitation. So during 2020, our neighbor across the street passed away. Afterwards, the house was bought and renovated, then lockdown happened and I was laid off. Luckily, it didn't affect me or my wife financially, and we continued to be well off and all was fine. One day, while doing some much-needed yard work, a man had stopped by, names changed for privacy reasons. He introduced himself and his girlfriend as Juan and Michelle, and ended up having a nice conversation and learned he was the one that bought the house. After that conversation, they invited us both to pizza down at our area's most popular pizza place, all handmade brick oven pizza. It's really good. We accepted the invitation and was to meet up there on Sunday. The week went on, and soon Sunday had rolled around, and we walked up to the front of the restaurant and sat and waited for our host to arrive. While we waited, I had ran inside and grabbed us both a drink. 15 minutes later, a manager had stepped outside and asked if we had ordered yet. Me: no, we haven't ordered yet, but we're waiting for someone to arrive. Manager: okay. Well, when you're ready, step inside. A few minutes later, my wife and I are starting to get agitated and thinking about leaving when the manager stepped back outside. Manager: "You two are Juan's guests, correct?" Me: "Yes. We're sitting here waiting on him." Manager: "Oh, well, he's inside. Do you not remember me?" We sat there looking confused about who she was. "I'm Michelle, Juan's girlfriend." It then clicked with us who she was and followed her in. I don't remember the conversation that took place after, but it turned out Juan owned both the pizza place and the burger place next to it. We were later told that he grew up poor and hated the way his home country was, so he made it his mission to give back as much as possible, no matter who it was. We ended up with too much pizza and had to call a friend to come eat it with us. Over the next 2 years of us living there, there would be the occasion of me and my wife going to these places to eat, and a few of these visits ending up with free food. Now, you're probably thinking we took advantage of his generosity. Well, no. Anytime we didn't pay, the staff got what we would have paid as a tip, and we would often have to avoid him and his girlfriend so we could pay, and that I didn't feel like I was taking an opportunity away from someone else that needed that free food more than me. Mad props to Juan and his girlfriend for being so sweet, too. I love seeing good people in the world. And our last story. Parking boats on the water. Threat to tow my boat. I own a 33-foot boat, and the dock in my property is currently going through some work on the seawall. In the meantime, I moved my boat to my mother's house. The issue is that my mother lives on a condo, which has only about 22-foot clearance. Because it's the edge of the condo, I have another 5 feet of the setback lines to the next condo, and I'm probably 3 feet to 5 feet into their side of the water. I originally asked the owner for a couple of months, which is what the contractor told us it would take. The work has been delayed due to extreme weather conditions and probably lack of follow-through by the contractor. The neighbors from the next property had a small boat. My boat was very close to theirs, and after a couple of weeks, they started complaining and asked that I move my boat. They could have easily moved forward as they didn't have anyone in front, but they denied, and after about 2 months of this, they left. The owner's now threatening to sue for loss of income. I just now received a call from someone who identified himself as the lawyer for the owners, saying that I had 3 business days until Wednesday to move my boat or it'll be towed. It's my understanding that they can't do that. The waterway is public property, just like the street would be. I'm pretty confident that they won't be able to touch it. The boat has a cabin, and it could qualify as a second home. Therefore, I don't think they can touch it without written notice or a court order. It's also very fishy that the lawyer would call me over the phone without sending anything in writing. I think he's bluffing. But then again, if your car is illegally parked, which I do not believe my boat to be, the towing company just tows it. I don't think the same rules apply to the water. Even though I'm certain that I'm not breaking any laws, I do feel that I might be overstepping some ethical boundaries. However, I do plan to move my boat back once the work is completed, and since there's no boat next door, and if it were, it has plenty of space either way because there are no boats on the dock next door, I think that a good neighbor would accommodate. Even when the previous boat was there and the space was very tight, the boats went through a tropical storm and they weren't even close to touching. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.